Hey, and welcome back to the channel, Sim Racing Junkies. Today's video, as promised, is all about a little program, a little gem called Antimicro. This basically is some software, guys, that enables you to map joystick peripherals to your keyboard. So then if you want to play older titles, our example today is going to be GT Legends, Prix Legends, rFactor 1 to a degree. Those game titles, because they're so old, struggle to see joystick peripherals. This can bridge the gap between the game and your actual peripherals, Antimicro. You'll be able to get this via the link in the description. This is what we're talking about down here, guys. Right, this guy here. And it comes when you download it, guys, as an installer. So it's very straightforward. You just double click on that. It installs. It automatically sets up a desktop location here. And this is what we're talking about. Now, the good thing about GT Legends and about Grand Prix Legends is there are actually SimTools plugins that can be downloaded, applied, patched, and you can use your motion simulator with these games. Obviously, my channel is all about motion simulator platforms, my DIY build, how to build that. There's many people building that, so we're concentrating on games that run with the motion sim. GT Legends is one of them. It does need quite a bit of tweaking compared to some other titles, guys, to get it really feeling natural and normal, and we're going to do that in the next video. We're not going to do that now. It's going to take too much time. We're just going to talk about Antimicro and what we need to do with Antimicro to get all of your peripherals to work. Let's double click on Antimicro. Now, what we need to do first and foremost when the application starts, guys, after you've installed it and you've started the application, go straight to the bottom here. And I can tell you this now for GT Legends, if you don't do this, your keys will not map and your shifter will not map to the game. You need to come down here and you need to basically start this with administrator privileges. So click on this line at the bottom here. Yes, we want to run Antimicro as an administrator. Now, when we do our mapping, it is actually going to translate to the game. And I found out this the hard way. That's why I'm saving you the time. Okay, when you start Antimicro application, it will show a list of what USB peripherals, joysticks, etc. you have plugged into your computer. My steering wheel is the Fanatec CSL direct drive, and I'm using the Club Sport 7-speed shifter, which also doubles as a sequential shifter. So what I need to ascertain once I've started this in administrator mode is which one of these tabs is related to my peripherals. Now, Fanatec CSL DD, when it installs in Device Manager, actually on your computer in Windows, it sees the Fanatec setup as two separate joysticks, even though they're really one. So we need to find out which one of these tabs actually highlights when we click buttons on our universal hub or when we move our shifter. That is simply a matter of moving our shifter or pressing our buttons on our universal hub. You can see here tab 3 is highlighting when I'm moving my shifter through its range of gears. So that's the one I'm going to click on. When you click on this tab, you're going to be presented with a whole bunch of pads here. Now, I've already been through this, guys, and I've already mapped my shifter to keyboard commands. If you want to make changes to your Antimicro mapping peripherals, then you need to make sure that you do fresh saves. If you do a fresh save each time for changes you make, then you won't have issues when you go into GT Legends. If you don't do that, you'll find that your shifting starts acting strangely. It won't go into gear. It'll miss the gears. That is because it's starting to get too messy, I think anyway, because of the ini file and what's happening between Antimicro and the GT Legends game data. So that's just something I want to say at the outset. That's something I've discovered through trial and error as I've done remappings for whatever reason, then found things not working properly. And I find that if I do a fresh save, then we don't have any issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through what you need to do. You've got GT Legends installed. Now you can start setting up a profile in Antimicro to map your shifter, which is the thing that's going to give you the issue with GT Legends. What will happen in GT Legends is when you go to map your shifter in GT Legends, it will only see reverse, first, second, and third. It won't see fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, or anything after that. Antimicro is very simple, very easy to use. Okay, What I'm going to do is I'm now going to move my shifter. You can see here, Antimicro is seeing my shifter positions. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, and seventh gear in these pads here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to map these to Antimicro, which is going to basically put them as a command to a keyboard command. So then when I go into GT Legends and it won't see fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, I can put those commands as keyboard strokes. First gear is registering here on button 14. I'm going to click this and it's going to give us a keyboard profile, okay? And what I'm going to do, because it's first gear, I'm going to make first gear 1. So button 14, okay, when I put my shifter into first is button 14. It is now going to register as a 1 keystroke on the keyboard. Second gear is button 15 here on Antimicro. Clicking on that, I'm going to click 2. So what happens is I click on this, it brings up the keyboard profile. I then click the keyboard stroke that I want to register as what that second gear is going to look like for GT Legends on my shifter. It's going to be 2. Third gear is button 16 on Antimicro. We'll go 3 on our numbers here. Fourth gear is button 17. Now it's important to note, don't try and do this on your keypad over here. GT Legends will not recognize the keypad. It sees it as reserved keys and you can't override it. So you need to either use your numbers or any of the letters. We're just going to use the numbers because they correspond easily to the shifting. Fourth gear, okay, so we press on this, we're going to make that 4. 5, button 18, we're going to make that 5. 6 is button 19. We click on that, we click gear 6. Now 7th gear over here, we're going to make that a different number altogether. We're going to make that U. That's going to become apparent when we get into game. What I discovered is that if you have, particularly with the Fanatec Club Sport shifter, the first gear and reverse are right next to each other. And although reverse requires you to press the shifter down and take it right across to the left-hand corner, because the hall sensor is so close together for first and reverse, GT Legends confuses first with reverse frequently. You'll go to put your car into first gear and it'll go into reverse. So what I do is I assign 7th gear, which will never be used in GT Legends. The most gears you have are 6 gears. You'll never have a 7th gear. So I allocate 7th gear to reverse in GT Legends to keep first gear and reverse completely separate from each other. Now, we've mapped the shifter. This applies, guys, to any button that you may have on a button box, on a universal hub, on your steering wheel, whatever, that GT Legends is not seeing. If you go to assign brake bias, for example, in GT Legends and you've got a little switch on your universal hub like I have, GT Legends will not see those buttons. But you can see here on Antimicro, it's seeing the brake bias buttons, for example, pit key buttons, turbo cut buttons, anything like that. GT Legends, it won't see it because it doesn't have the data in the game to see all these new danfangle buttons and peripherals for modern day joysticks and force feedback wheels. So you will have to go into Antimicro here and you'll have to map those, you know, like your brake bias, your turbo boost, more boost, less boost, pit key, whatever it is, you'll need to map those once again to a keyboard stroke. And then when you come into GT Legends in your setup, you will assign your setups to those keystrokes. Simple as that. Okay, once you've worked out what GT Legends or Grand Prix Legends or whatever the older game is that you're playing is not seeing on your joystick peripherals, you need to map those to your keystroke and then you need to save the profile. Okay, you must do this and save a fresh profile, otherwise it gets really confused in GT Legends, probably because a lot of this stuff ends up going in an ini file, and GT Legends can become really confused if you have multiple mappings, multiple saves, and you're trying to just map new mappings over an old save, it'll mess things up in GT Legends. Your gears will not work properly, fourth will become second, all this sort of business. So each time that you make modifications to Antimicro Mapper, save a new profile, okay? When you press save the first time, you'll have to set up a folder. I've just made a folder on my C drive that's just called GT Legends Gear Mapping. If it was for Grand Prix Legends, I'd make a Grand Prix Legends folder, rFactor folder, yada, 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 na, someone has stolen your Honda. Just make a folder, okay? So in GT Legends, that mapping that we've just assigned for our shifter to keystrokes on a keyboard, I'm just going to save them as latest Grand Prix Legend profile. Okay, I'm going to save. That should do away with any issues that we have in game. We'll see when we start the game and look at it. I've already been through this today, so this should now work. I was having all sorts of issues when I was coming in because I'd made a few changes with mappings or whatever. Then I'd go back into the game. Suddenly it wouldn't find first gear. You go into third gear and it was second gear. It was because things were getting confused between Antimicro saves and the GT Legend ini file. That's what I think's been happening. So make fresh saves when you do modifications and you should be right to move ahead. We don't close this application after you've done your assignments here and you've mapped your shifter to keystrokes. You minimize this so that it stays active in your system tray. Okay. Now we can start GT Legends. I can't overstate, guys, how good a game this is for its era. Like I said, this is circa 2002, 2003, 2004, something like that. Graphically, it's actually quite good for its age. Okay, it doesn't have all the really complex shaders and everything that we're used to now with Assetto Corsa and rFactor 2 and games like this, though it has a very strong modding community, and I believe there are graphic updates mods that do add some shading, etc. There are a vast amount of tracks, cars, and this has a fantastic single-player campaign that is a lot of fun to play and very challenging to play. I would highly recommend getting this. Like I said, it is dirt cheap from Steam. It takes up next to no space and it'll run on old computers. So if you've got a new computer, it'll run no problems. I'm using Windows 10. I don't have any issues using Windows 10. I haven't had to run it in compatibility mode or anything. It just runs straight off Steam once it's installed. Once you start GT Legends, obviously there's a lot of things that you can go through. We're just going to concentrate on our controller today. So we're going to go to Options and we're going to go to Controls. Now, the first thing you'll see over here on your left is a list of what GT Legends is seeing as peripherals. It's seeing your keyboard, it's seeing the two Fanatec joysticks, which really are only the one, and it's seeing the USB joystick here. That's my button box, which was also seen on that first tab in Antimicro. Now, it's seeing Joy 2, which is actually what we were just using in Antimicro. It's already grayed out. That's what we want. Do not touch anything else. If you've got a couple of Logitech profiles, a Thrustmaster, it should already automatically be grayed out and ready for you to move your wheel and assign all of your different assignments over here on the actions and what buttons are assigned to those things. You'll need to go through and click on your accelerate. You'll need to press your accelerator. You can see over here, it's showing my throttle. You'll need to do your brake, the same thing. Make sure you move them through their full range of motion. Clutch is going to be the same, full range of motion. Steer left, just go through and do this. Steer right. Okay, it's picking up all of those sorts of things and it's mapping them to GT Legends ini file, okay? The other very important thing with GT Legends is, for some reason, it cannot distinguish when you are out of gear on your shifter, and it will remain in gear when your shifter is in the neutral position. Not a big deal because you can just keep your foot on the clutch, but if you're in the pits and things like that, and you don't want to have to keep your foot on the clutch, and you'd like to be in neutral, you need to assign a button for neutral, okay? Now, in my case, I'm just assigning it to a button on my universal hub on my steering wheel. So if I want to stop, take my foot off the clutch and the car be in neutral, I have to press a button for it to be in neutral. It's a little thing, it's a bit painful, but that's what you need to do in GT Legends. It's not a big deal. So we've just attacked setting up our steering wheel and our pedals and a neutral position in the driving tab here. The other one we need to go to is our extra tab here. This is where we're going to set up where our gearing was. Now, this is an old profile. We've just gone through Antimicro and I've assigned my gears to numbers. Okay, this is an old profile assigned to letters. Now, as you can see here, first gear, second gear, third gear, they're all assigned to the joystick because, as I said earlier, GT Legends will actually see reverse, even though reverse is assigned to a keystroke here. That's because, as I said earlier, we're getting reverse gear right away from first gear with the Fanatec Club Sport shifter. It's actually going to become U in a minute because we actually assigned it. Reverse we assigned as a U keystroke. So first gear you will just assign with your shifter. You'll click on these and then move your shifter into first, then into second, then into third. Now when I click on fourth gear and put it into fourth, voila, it's seeing the Antimicro mapping as being a keystroke 4 from our keyboard. If I hadn't have signed anything, when I'm trying to put it into fourth gear in GT Legends, nothing would happen. It wouldn't assign anything, okay? You have to use Antimicro, map a keystroke to your shifter in Antimicro, and then in here, fifth gear, we can now assign it to the keystrokes that we set up in Antimicro. Sixth gear, and then our reverse is going to be right over in seventh gear, which was our letter U on our keystroke. That is as simple as it gets, guys, for getting this to work so you can have a full H pattern shifter, and that's what we want for old H pattern 60s cars. Now, this was all in this first steering wheel with hands tab. The other ones we need to sort out, guys, are our force feedback and some of the sensitivity settings for those items. Now, for me personally, this is a personal thing for whoever's setting this up because it's up to how you want to do things. For example, I have sensitivity for my steering down at 51% and I have full sensitivity for all of my pedals. I have no dead zones. You may want to put a dead zone in, for example, on your brake if you're having issues when you're heeling and towing, which you need to do in these old cars going back in your gears, and you're applying too much brake when you're trying to heel and tow. You might want to put a bit of dead zone in there so then you're not suddenly locking your brakes up when you're trying to heel and tow. That's just an example, okay? Speed, sensitivity steering down here can be set on 0. Now this box here, guys, this is if you have a standalone shifter, like a Thrustmaster standalone shifter. There's heaps of standalone shifters out there. There's cheap ones you can get on eBay that are just a USB controller with like an Arduino sort of inside them. They'll plug into your USB hub and they can be seen by GT Legends as a USB peripheral. And if you select that, it should work without needing to use Antimicro. I can't vouch for this 100% because obviously I don't have a standalone shifter. My Club Sport shifter is integrated into the Fanatec wheelbase, so I can't say whether this actually works or not. I'm assuming if you've got a direct shifter, you'd only have to tick that box. Then when you go back to your extras here and you select fourth gear, fifth gear, hopefully GT Legends will see that. Now, don't panic. If you've got a standalone shifter and it doesn't see the gears when you put them in gear in the GT Legends shifter assignments, simply use Antimicro like we've done for my shifter. So you would tick this if you have a standalone shifter. I don't, so I'll untick it. Now we'll go to our force feedback. Very important, guys, if you have a modern force feedback wheel like the CSL Direct Drive or even any Logitech from the 25 onwards, you need to click this reverse effects button here, okay? Tick here, box here. You must tick that. If you don't, guys, you get really strange force feedback. It's like in rFactor 1 where you need to put your force feedback in the negative. We're literally reversing the polarity of the force feedback. If you don't tick that, I mean, you'll find out if you don't, you end up with a massive dead zone between sort of 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on your steering wheel. Then you get a really floppy feeling after that. As soon as you reverse the effects, it feels like a proper force feedback should. You've got resistance all the way through, and that's the way it should be. So with modern force feedback steering wheels, you must select reverse effects. Feedback strength and feedback effects, this comes down to the user's taste, okay? It's all up to you how you like things to feel when you're driving. For me, I've got it set up for GT Legends, the strength at 31%, and I want full effects coming through my force feedback. I want to feel the rumble strips. I want to feel the curbs. I want to feel the bumps in the road. I want to feel when I bump into other cars, so I have mine on full. There is no presets available in GT Legends for the Fanatec CSL DD because the CSL Fanatec DD came a long time after GT Legends, so don't touch any of this stuff, guys. Now, really, that is all you should have to do to get your shifter to work in GT Legends. Let's see if the doctor is true to his word, and let's go in. And I'm a little bit nervous because, as I say, I've done this a few times. I spent a few hours working this out today before I shot the video, and I have found a few little glitches that I've had to work through, and it seems to come down to the fact that if you change your profile in Antimicro too many times, as mentioned before, it starts to mess with the information that GT Legends is getting, possibly in an ini file, and things start getting mixed up with your gear changes, and some weird stuff starts to happen. I seem to have solved that, guys, simply by making sure any fresh assignments that I do in Antimicro from my shifter to mapping them on a keystroke, I make sure that I save a standalone file for that particular mapping. All right, let's go in now and see how this all comes together and works for us. We'll go into single player. We'll just choose a quick race. This will set us up as a weekend. What I might do is I'll untick free practice and qualifying, so then we basically get straight into a race. The doctor is going to be absolutely abysmal at this because the doctor is an abysmal driver. I'm going to select Nürburgring for this race because it's going to be a little bit of fun. And I'm going to get this, as so you can see the motion sim in action while we're racing. You'll see that this actually works quite well. Like I say, it does require a bit of tweaking when you're in game. The great thing about GT Legends is it works with the head tracking, which is great. A must for me. I can't play without head tracking anymore. So let's run a little bit of a race now so you can see this in action. You can see it's all working with the shifter, with the force feedback, with the motion sim. And I'll see you guys in the next video when we tackle how to get some nice tweaking happening for the motion sim, because it is a bit counterintuitive the way that we need to set it up compared to the other titles that I've set up Sim Tools profiles, but it works quite well with a little bit of tweaking. It's still a work in progress. I'm still doing it. Enjoy this race, guys. Now, guys, you do have to be quite precise on the key, on the shifts with GT Legends. It's not very forgiving. If you cock up your gear changes, you've got to make sure your coordination between clutch and shift is spot on, or you'll miss gears. So just take your time on your gear shifts and you'll be fine. We'll do a little skip down there. Want to squeeze the accelerator there. Not overdo it. As you can see there, I missed that first gear, which is what I was going for. Had a bit of a shocker there. So guys, this is a complete vanilla version of GT Legends. I haven't tried any graphics patches, etc. I think it's pretty tidy, you know, for a game that's so old. Now, what I really like about this I love the force feedback in this game, and I love the motion sim. Now you're not going to see a lot of movement in the motion sim with this particular car. Remember the Coopers, they were like a brick on wheels, you know, like they were very taut, they didn't have a lot of body roll. That's what made them so good. Really struggling to catch these guys. It is quite a difficult game. You really have to nail coming out and going in, otherwise you will never catch the other cars. The other thing I should mention too is, guys, I'm using the Lab profile for my steering, and I do not have a full range of steering. I don't have it set at 900, I've got it set at 400 in my profile. You can see how much I'm needing to move my steering wheel even now. Snuck past him. You can see even at 400 how much I'm needing to turn the steering wheel to get around. If you had it at the full 900 range, it'd be terrible. So just keep that in mind. I would recommend definitely running your degrees of rotation no more than 400. So I'm doing a gear skip here from 4th to 2nd down here. Boy, I felt that in the sim when he hit me. Now, there is a limitation to the head tracking here. You can't go any more than 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. I think I've got him. Now the other thing I've noticed today playing this is that the side mirrors, sometimes they load and sometimes they don't, which is quite annoying. Sometimes I have side mirrors I can see who's behind me. In this case I can't. I don't know why it's doing that. It's obviously a graphics issue, and something that I'll have to basically Google. And I'm sure that it's a common issue. You can see all the shifter gears are working, no problem. You've just got to make sure that you get your coordination between clutch and gearing spot on. In this game, it is unforgiving if you put your gearing not in the right sequence, it won't go into gear properly. That's a good thing. That's the way it should be. But the Antimicro keyboard mapper, as you can see, it works brilliantly. I'm pushing it to try and catch this guy. There you go. I didn't get the gear properly and it didn't go into third. That can cost you the race. But all round, I'm pretty happy with this, you know, for an old game. I think the graphics are pretty good, you know. The interior and stuff like that in the car is awesome. You've even got the lap counter and stuff on the dash. I'm steering the crap out of this thing and it's practically going straight. Keep trying. You need to crack the top 3. It is quite a hard game, and you'll need to practice a lot, guys, to be able to move on to the next stages. But if that's just too frustrating for you, you can unlock all of the tracks. There's a patch that you can download that'll unlock all the tracks that are available, will unlock all the cars that are available. And as I said, in the modding community, guys, there are a lot of tracks that can be downloaded. Check this out. How cool is this? We're getting to see the motion sim running in the replay. That was awesome. Yeah, so like I say, big modding community, lots of tracks, lots of cars, lots of patches, graphics upgrades, etc. And this game is cheap as chips on Steam, and with a little program like Antimicro, you can get your shifter working so that you can actually have a proper H-pattern shifter working in-game. Leave it at that, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, take it easy.